rocking and rolling. They got the game. Customer success is their claim to fame. On the podcast, they like the spark, elevating your skills, creating a mark. Let's dive deeper into.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Customer Success Playbook Podcast. I'm Roman Trebon, and with me always is my co-host, Kevin Metzger. Please do us a huge favor and give our show a rating, subscribe, and like it so we can continue to grow our audience. Kevin, how you doing today?
Roman, been doing well. Excited about today's topic. We're talking first aha moment, right?
Yeah, no, I know. We have a great guest lined up. I'm excited about it, Kev. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Jarvis Harris, Global Head of Customer Success and Renewals at Xactly. Jarvis is a renowned leader in customer success and has extensive experience in developing strategies that drive customer engagement and satisfaction. Kev, he has over 20 years of experience, and he's known for his innovative approach to customer success, including persona-based onboarding and first value delivery strategies that ensure customers achieve their goals. Today, Kev, on the show, we're going to explore how to create a segmentation plan for first value delivery. Jarvis is going to talk to us about the perception of value from the customer's perspective and how that becomes a reality and why it's essential to deliver value early in the customer journey. We'll dive into a 30, 60, 90-day segmentation plan that onboarding and implementation teams can use when bringing on new customers. I'm excited to get into this. Jarvis, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Super excited about being here today. Looking forward to digging in, unpack some stuff, and drive some value to the overall customer success nation, I would say.
Yeah, that's right. I'm excited to get into this too. So why is delivering first value early in the customer journey? Why is that critical for customer success and what impacts it have on customer perception, Jarvis?
Yeah, I think, if you think about why is it important to drive first value early and often and early stages, it's real simple. For so many years, the software world has looked at first value as go live. How quickly can I get a customer live? What does that look like? When are they going to be using the software? When are they going to be using our platform or our solution? And for a while, that was good when we lived in a world where value wasn't as important as continual usage. I think back in the day when companies made money based on maintenance mode or maintenance contract and not from a SaaS model, companies were like, hey, just get a little bit by little bit because you're going to keep paying us on the maintenance side, but you paid us a big amount of money up front. As we transition to the SaaS world, it's really put demand on value quickly because there's risk there and a customer doesn't consume as much technical debt. It's super important to drive value quickly and have first value and to define that because you have to be able to show your users, your company, as well as, depending on the role, your board, the value of your company and continuously show revenue over and over and over again. And that's done literally through saying, hey, how do I find value right now in day one? How do I figure out in the first 90 days, there's usage, there's beyond the software is on, but something you bought it for, we're doing, at least something. So I think it's essential to do that to ensure renewals, to ensure a high retention rate, to ensure that you have stability in your GRR world and lead to the NRR world that we all want to have grow.
Can you kind of walk us through the 30, 60, 90-day segmentation plan and explain how it helps tailor the onboarding process?
Yeah. So if you look at the 30, 60, 90-day segmentation plan, it breaks down based on where you are and what you're trying to achieve. So if I look at that first 30 days, you want to say, what is it that we need to drive in that first 30 days? What are those key things that we want to bring to fruition in those first 30 days? And it's going to really depend on how you have your product broken down. So I'll go granular for a minute. If I have a self-service product or a freemium type product, the first 30 days is essential. So if I look at that 30, 60, 90 days, the first 30 days in a really self-service type product or a product that's going to be more of a, kind of click and go. I would say we're on Microsoft Teams or Zoom. In that first 30-day phase, it's going to be vital that the customer is not only able to log in, but do everything they need to do in those first 30 days. Why? Because the technical lift is going to be light. It's a user-driven thing, and you grow that by consistency in the product, ease of use, and visibility of the product, the more people you have on it. So that first 30 days in that segmentation in that freemium world or that self-service world is going to be paramount. You have to tailor something to say, how do I drive value in the first 30 days in a way where we can get hands on keyboards? How do I get fingers on keyboards and actually using the solution? So that first 30 days is going to be essential. If I'm looking at it from a customer success perspective, based on my product type and the ease of use of my product, that first 30 days is going to be essential to ensure that we're actually delivering something. If you have other segments where it's not freemium or self-service, but a market niche product, you need to start in that first 30 days, ensuring that you've defined what success looks like from sales to CS. That sales to CS transition is important because if you're in that space where you have a niche product, that sales to CS handoff is going to be critical because you do not want to have to re-explain to a customer your value prop when you're a niche player. You should be proactive in driving them and not letting the customer drive you. Here's how I see it. In that world, it's important to say, if you're a niche provider, in that first 30 days, you should be driving the customer shouldn't be driving you. The customer drives you when they reach out to become a customer. Once they're a customer, you're driving them. So I think that's another part of it that's important when you look at that in that 30, 60-day range when you have a niche product. And then, if you think about enterprise products, the whole different approach where you're going to dig in more. Each segment, there are specific things in that 30, 60, 90-day window that you need to deliver, from ensuring that you have visibility, defining the roles. Here's another thing I call the 3Ds of success: the driver, dreamer, doer. In that 30, 60, 90-day segment, you have to ensure that you can define the 3Ds: the driver, dreamer, and doer. Sometimes you might only have a doer and a driver, or a doer and a dreamer, but ideally you want all three. When you identify those are the people that are going to help ensure that you're able to drive onboarding and have first value, because they all have different stakes in the process and the play. And you're going to deliver different things to them in that 30, 60, 90 days. A dreamer, like an executive sponsor, they're not going to have as much insight or involvement, but they're going to want to know they're hitting their targets. A doer is going to be that person that's that man, fingers on the keyboards. And then that driver, the person is going to ensure that the function delivers or the business is getting that value. So being able to define those people in that first 30 days and ensuring that the 30, 60, 90 segment, they have the vision they need, they have the insight they need, they have enablement they need, so you can drive forward their relationship.
I like the 3Ds. I'm going to is there any commission fee I got to pay to use the 3D, Jarvis? Can I borrow that and use it internally as well? I love that. The dreamer, the driver, the doer, right?
Use it. I mean, it's something everywhere I've went and I've talked about a bunch, because I think if you don't define that initially, you're in trouble. But when you define that initially and map out a success plan and an onboarding plan for each one of those three, that solidifies value early on. Because think about it. If you can look at those three and look at your product type, and you have the segmentation of the product and the user base, at that particular point, what you're able to do is define success at a specific level. So there's something called appropriate success. So appropriate experience. Lincoln Murphy talks about appropriate experience all the time. So the 3Ds takes appropriate experience to the next level. It takes it down to the actual level where it's tangible instead of theoretical.
Jarvis, are you defining all of this up front in the sales process as far as who the 3Ds are for the company and what the initial goals are? Do you do that during the sales process? Do you do that during the onboarding process? Where do you see that most advantage?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, Kevin. I think one of the things, we define it partially in the sales process and we solidify it in the onboarding process. Here's how that's important. When you think about the sales team, they're hunting. and they develop relationships. So depending on your sales philosophy or how you build it, it might be your power map or executive level mapping or your account tree. There are different terminologies that exist. When that salesperson maps their account tree or power map, what they're able to do is they define roles. And it's super important because at that level, they're going to be dealing with a dreamer in most cases, and sometimes a driver, and not always a doer. A doer will be in passing, but they'll have that driver dreamer relationship. So you start to extrapolate some of that in the actual pre-sales sales mode. And then you solidify it in the onboarding mode, because then you get introduced to the doers, the people that are actually going to be the main administrators, the people that are going to make sure the software solution is facilitated. So it's a mixed thing. That's why that sales to CS handoff is so essential, because you want to define that and push it down. Also, a really cool thing is to put that in your CRM solution. So you can define driver, dreamer, doer in your CRM solution. So your sales rep, as they build out their account tree or power map, can define part of that initially. And as you start to understand the buyer story or the buyer journey, that CS team will be able to take that information. And when they start to build a success plan or onboarding plan, a first value roadmap, a lot of that detailed pertinent information is already there. So the customer moves rapidly.
Each of those Ds are going to have a different goal in mind, right? They're going to care. Yep. The dreamer cares about the ROI, the impact it has on the bottom line. The doer just wants a system that works day in, day out, right? That they, works for the team. And it's so important. And I think a lot of organizations face longer sales cycles, right? And so you actually make a decision. And then I think that, reinforcing value in the first 90 days is so important. As we look at complex enterprise kind of onboarding, I was at a company where it took almost 1.5 to 2 years to onboard a solution. Those were long onboarding cycles. The word that scares me to death is scope creep. How do you ensure that when you have a longer onboarding time frame or cycle, how do you still ensure that you deliver value in that first 90 days and avoid that, what I call that dirty word, scope creep that pops in from time to time?
Yeah, no, I think, Roman, if I look at it like that, there is a couple of things that are going to be essential to ensure that you don't have scope creep. One part is that the CS team or the CSM that's assigned has visibility into what professional services is doing or a partner is doing. I think one of the first gaps you find is when you're building out things, the professional services team has a goal in mind that's usually still wrapped around go live and ensuring that the product's operational and hitting their service hours target. Or a partner, kind of the same thing. They're working more so based on a cost-based model, whereas CS is working on a value-based model. So I think the first thing is making sure that your CS or onboarding manager has visibility to both the professional services team and the partner team. That's important. And not just visibility, but inputs and outputs. So they need to have the outputs that come, and they need to be able to have inputs that ask questions and ensure that what the definition of success that was originally crafted from sales that was given to CS is maintained. So that's one part. I think the next part is, as we talked about the 3Ds and what happens there, that CSM has to ensure very quickly that they understand the clear defined goals of that dreamer. And I would say of the dreamer. Here's why that's important. The doer, the admin, the person that has their hands on the keyboard, they will work based on their knowledge of what they do on a day-to-day basis, but they won't have the overall value prop of why you bought the solution. And what can happen is oftentimes an admin or a doer will get to the place and they will make recommendations based on a day in the life. Or a driver will make recommendations based on what they're hearing from the business and not what we signed up for. That's where you start to have scope creep. It's imperative for the CSM to almost lean into an engagement manager, project manager role, but not so much. They have to be able to lean into understanding what are those timelines, what are those deliverables, what are those CTAs, those call to actions that exist, but also ensuring that they're not in the weeds, but they're holding the PS team or the engagement manager to those objectives and said, hey, I know the customer said this, but this is what we're going to deliver. And they have to make sure that the relationship with that dreamer is consistent. You have to make sure on an ongoing basis, reaffirm, this is our definition of success. This is the objective we're trying to meet. And if anything starts to scatter, the CSM has to pull them back in. And even to the point, challenge the customer and say, this is what you said. This is what you're getting. I'm about to say something that's scary.
Oh,
You have to tell the customer no, and you have to tell the customer, this is what we're doing, nothing else.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Most times people in CS say, oh, I can't do that. No, you can. They've just signed an agreement. They're in an SOW. They've just decided to give you money. You have leverage, but you also have a responsibility. The CS team, the company has a responsibility to be a trusted advisor. What does that mean?
Yeah.
You have to be able to say, you came to us with a need. Don't tell us how to deliver the need. Tell us what the problem is, and we're going to meet your need. We have to say, this is the plan. This is how we're going to be. You have to be confidently dogmatic about telling the customer, this is where we're going and this is why. That's how you prevent that scope creep. It's being sure of where you are and not allowing the customer to dictate the result, especially when you defined it when you signed.
Yeah. It's something, I think that's such a great point. As the CSM, you got to be confident in what was signed, how your delivery process is set up so that you know you're hitting your goals. And it becomes easy to say no because you don't always have to say no. You can say, well, if we really want to go down that path, this is what it costs to do that. And I think that's something else that's scary for CSMs to do often. But if you know what your defined deliveries are and what your scope is, it's always an opportunity to say, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to impact the project. And this is the cost of doing it. So how does constant communication and setting interim milestones help maintain customer confidence during the longer onboarding process cycles?
Yeah, I think constant communication is imperative. As we just talked about, CSM having confidence, but also being able to lead and guide a customer. I think that constant communication and setting those interim milestones, what it does is it sets the bar, but it also defines expectations. So it sets the bar. This is what we're going to do, and this is what we're expected to deliver. But also it puts everyone into place to know this is what I have to do and by when. Success plans are so important. I'm going to say them again. Success plans are so important. I'm going to say it for the third time. Success plans are so important because they are your guideline, your roadmap, your Bible. It depends on how you want to look at it for the customer's pilgrimage to value. If I think about that, that constant communication means we're not going to say, I talked to you today and I will talk to you again in 6 weeks because you're in onboarding. No, I'm going to talk to you today and again in 2 weeks or in 7 days or in 10 days and to get an update on where things are, to let you know where we are, let you know how we're tracking to that milestone. Here's the important part of that. Because we're in onboarding, sometimes the PS person, an engagement manager, a project manager, or someone else will be in the trenches with that information. That goes back to something I talked about earlier, making sure you have proper visibility of the inputs and outputs. You can contact and communicate with the customer to say, hey, here's where we are, here's what we're doing, and this is where we're going. And what that provides the customer is a sense of relief if the onboarding time frame goes long. So if it's taking a longer time, the customer has been communicated with consistently. They're informed on challenges, roadblocks, as well as opportunities. And they also know that you are engaged with them. What it also does is it allows you to mitigate in the moment instead of trying to become a magician. If you can mitigate in the moment, that allows you to plan and structure and make things happen instead of saying, now we're 8 months in, we're way behind, and I have to call in this VP of CS or this SVP or the CEO to try to smooth the relationship out. Then you're expecting your executive leader to be a magician and magically make things work. No, communicating early and often with interim milestones. I know we said we're going to be at X. We're not at X. We're just at C. So we got a long way to go, but these are the two things we've committed to and we've completed thus far. You have to give the customer something and show momentum. The worst thing ever is to go silent on the onboarding. It devalues the CSM. If the customer success manager communicates early and often, they solidify their value early and ensure the customer has confidence in what they say. Even if it's a great onboarding, communicate that. They're going to trust what you say. You're building a rapport. You're building a relationship. So it's important, either good or bad. Specifically, it sets you up to ensure and bring some relief in bad things, and doesn't require an executive to try to be a magician and work magic to get the relationship back on. One last piece of that. If you do that well, sometimes you can avoid an early cycle churn with a customer because they're upset.
Yeah. Jarvis, you're on fire today. I love that if you have a super smooth onboarding and you don't communicate, you've devalued it. They don't even know. It's like, I guess it was okay. You've totally devalued all the work and the seamless transition you put in. So Jarvis, if we have an audience member listening and they're saying, oh man, I'm putting in the 3Ds. I'm going for it. What advice would you give an organization that's looking to implement a segmentation plan, and maybe what's some challenges they should look out for?
Yeah, I think the advice I would give is, first, understand your customer base and understand your solution. That sounds crazy, but we have solutions, we have platforms, and we have products. We have highly technical products. We have products that are not technical, just very easy to implement. And you have products that are integratable. That means you need to know where you sit and where you play. Why is that important? Because one of the things you want to know before you can build out this segmentation model, before you can talk about 3Ds, you have to understand, what am I walking into? I'll give a prime example. As I talked about with Zoom or Teams, when I approach that, what am I trying to do? First, like I said, I want to make it where we can show value in 24 hours, not 30 days. I have a product that requires immediate action and immediate value. The other part of it, I have a product that spreads based on users and licenses and ease of use. How do I make workplace life easy? Meaning, how do I empower workplace? So the next part, I need to understand that I'm dealing with workplace productivity. It's a different world than business intelligence, analytics, or CRM. It's workplace productivity. So how do I make it efficient? How do I make it seamless? How do I put it in one place? When I think about it, I have to understand where my product plays, where my product sits, and what value does my product bring downstream as well as upstream. So that's the first part of that when I'm thinking about my segment. And the reason that's important is because you have to map out what you want to bring to your dreamer, what you want to bring to your driver, what you want to bring to your doer. And in some cases, does it even make sense to have 3 levels? You might just need 2 because of the type of product and the type of market you serve. I just said something else, the type of market you serve. What does that mean? If I serve a market where it was ARR based, but then I switched to an MRR based market, and it was like, oh my God, I went from customer spending $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 to customer spending $999. And it's like, well, how I'm like, oh God, that's totally different. Well, that means I might not have a driver, dreamer, doer in the $999 MRR market. I might just have a driver, or I might just have a doer because the price point is so low. So that means my segmentation approach is different and it's more commoditized, meaning I'm going to automate, and my desire is to over communicate digitally and, videos and Vidyard and finding the tools. It's super important to understand your customer and your market. Do not try to implement the 3Ds or segmentation when it does not fit your market cap. It does not fit your market space. And the other thing is, if you're listening to this and you're new to CS, or you become a CS leader and you say, I'm going to build this kingdom organization, and you have an MRR product or a low dollar product, what will happen is you will get funding, and in 18 months, you'll be laying off half the team and they'll be firing you because you didn't look at your market and your product and how you do CS. You might need 2 CS people, 1 onboarding specialist, and a community manager. And that's all you need because of your product. So you have to understand that segment. A real thing to look at is, what's my market? What experience and exposure does my product bring? And how hard is it to put my product into practice, into implementation? When you're able to do that, Then you can figure out how to segment. You have to understand your ideal customer profile as well as your market cap, your market space, and how you want to grow your business. So CS moves from customer centric to EBITDA driven and to revenue forecast driven, because that's where you have to figure out, how do I insulate the organization, insulate the customer, as well as ensure that our margins and our revenue view is right. And we have to have the right staffing model, the right go-to-market approach, the right segmentation structure to do all those things. So if you're listening, it's some work to do, but it's good work.
Very cool. So to the point, you're going to have different strategies depending on the type of product you've got. Some of it's going to be potentially product driven versus people driven implementations, and understanding how to implement that. Do you have recommendations for when it's a product driven type onboarding? Any types of tools or things that you think are really good in that type of environment?
Yeah. So if we look at product driven onboarding, let's double click down there a little bit. So when we think about product driven onboarding, give me an example and I can dig into it, because I got a couple, but I don't want to go the wrong direction.
Yes. Where it's a lower price product and your users coming in and the users going to drive in that lower market, the user's the one making the buying decision.
Yep.
And they're coming on and trying to get on board. In that case, you're going to use a product driven onboarding, right? You're going to use the education models from within the product. You're going to use prompts from within the product. So I'm just wondering what kind of tools you'd like to use in that scenario.
So I think, a couple of different directions. One, depending on the type of budget you have, if I'm looking at it, I'll look at one part. The first part is you have to have a really good relationship with your product marketing and your product management team, product engineering. Why is that important? Because as you think about in-app onboarding, you're going to have to make sure that it aligns with the product roadmap, as well as usability, as well as your customer journey map. So first part, make sure CS people don't just work in a vacuum and say you deal with the support team and sales team. Product. Whenever I say something 3 times, it's important. So make sure you're connected to the product team. The next part that I think, WalkMe has WalkMe and Pindo, if you hear this, you can send proceeds to Jarvis Harris. I will take all of it. But Pindo, WalkMe are a couple of good in-product support, in-product usage tools that integrate well with a customer success tool that you can actually drive onboarding, meaning you document the user journey, like in Plan Had or to Tango or, one of those Vitally. You document the user journey. And once you document the user journey, you tie it into your Pindo or WalkMe solution. As the customer clicks through specific things, you have that onboarding information that pops up. And you take that onboarding data and you take those specific things and you'll move it to a customer community solution. Higher Logic Vanilla is one where you can take the integration data from your Pindo or WalkMe, push it over to that community-based tool. And that community-based tool will help you drive onboarding, kick webinars off like Mighty Network, where you can have live sessions or things like that. So I think if I think about it, I would say WalkMe, Pindo from in-app tool. I would say, a Mighty Networks or a Higher Logic for a community-based tool that integrates well, that you can push that data to have a more tech touch driven onboarding when you have those monthly renewal cycles. And then on top of that, I would say you would underpin it with a light version of a gain site, or you might not even want to go to a gain site. You might want to look at a Vitally or something that's a little bit less or churn zero, and only do the onboarding module and the retention module that allows you to see it in an MRR specific way, because you're not going to have as many defined touch points and your renewal cycle is different because it's monthly. You want to have consistent engagement and have triggers based on specific clicks in the product, usage, or non-clicks in the product for you to get ahead of that to speak to the customer. So I think that would be your technical ecosystem that you would bundle together. It'd be important to have a great relationship with product, understand if you have some type of iPaaS or integration tool, because you're going to want to bridge all those things together. That's how I would look at it and approach it. You can do that in a very economical way if you plan it out. One of the keys to successful segmentation and onboarding and bringing it in based on if you're a MRR product or ARR product is being able to storyboard out your customer journey, but also being able to sort out your CSM journey. So we think about customer journey all the time. What's your CSM journey? What does it look like? What does it mean? When does CS talk to education services to build an enablement plan? When is support? Is it support based on feature function or support based on experience? How do you ingrain that into your CSM's head to make sure they have that? What's that CSM journey map and roadmap to know what they do and how they do it? That makes the onboarding experience even easier with technology on top.
All right, Jarvis, we've gotten to the point of the show where we now hit you with the hard questions. We're getting to our rapid fire section. All right, buckle up. You're already sitting down, so we're good there. I'll start off. We'll go back and forth here. You an early bird or a night owl?
I'm an early bird.
Yeah, I agree.
What's a favorite movie that you've seen?
Favorite movie I've seen? Oh my God, that's a rough one. I would say favorite movie is a mixture between the Matrix and Avengers, the first movie.
Okay, nice. All right, Jarvis, you're in Memphis, right?
Yep.
If I'm visiting Memphis, what am I seeing? Where am I eating?
You're seeing the National Civil Rights Museum, then you're going to Graceland, and then you're going to wrap it up with a walk down on Beale Street. And if you're lucky, it's during basketball season, so you'll finish it off with a Grizzlies game while you walk down on Beale and go to the Grizzlies game. With that, what am I eating? Of course, you have to eat barbecue, but it's not just barbecue. We got good catfish. We got it all. Since you're in Memphis, barbecue downtown, the Rendezvous is kind of the place. You can't go wrong with most Memphis barbecue. We got good wings, good catfish, good barbecue, all of it. That's what you're doing.
Yeah. Nice. And we're recording right before dinner. I'm getting starved. That sounds great. All right, Kevin.
I'm headed through Memphis in a few weeks on college visits.
Okay.
I just got a whole bunch of notes down for that.
I was going to say, you got a whole itinerary already. That wasn't even planned.
Yeah, absolutely.
One place you'd like to visit that you've never been?
So, a place I like to visit I've never been is Africa, the jungle, the Serengeti.
Nice. All right, Kev, we got one more for him or not?
Sure, let's go with one more. What's your favorite sport to watch or play?
Football, man. Football. I love football. I actually have season tickets to University of Memphis. I graduated from there, and I've been going year after year since I graduated. So I've had season tickets now for right at 20 years. It's something that I've always done. Been my best friend. Then I have a son. He's in college now, but he played football his whole life. And up until he went off to school in Chattanooga, he was a season ticket attendee as well. I love football. I coached my son football all the way till I couldn't coach anymore. Then I became the dad in the stands that was like, hey, what's happening? But I love football. It's near and dear to me.
Wow, you guys play Florida State in mid-September. That's a big game. Kevin's a Clemson guy, Jarvis, so he's rooting against Florida State as well. So you guys have that in common, both rooting against Florida State this season. Jarvis, awesome, man. You crushed it. Really enjoyed it. Where can our audience find more about you and check out what you have going on?
Great question. You can find out more about me just on LinkedIn. Go to find Jarvis J. Harris on LinkedIn. But also, we're in August. I will give you a date, October 1st, 3 times again. October 1st, go to jarvisjharris.com and you will be able to find out more about me. If you need me to come speak, consult, do any of those things, because I mentor, I coach, I do a lot of things to help young professionals as well as the CS community. So jarvisjharris.com, October 1st, check me out.
I love it. October 1st. We'll put it in the show. So if you look in the comments of the show, you'll find that website. Audience, thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe, like, reach out and comment so we know what kind of guests and topics you want us to have on the show. You can find us on LinkedIn. Our show page is the Customer Success Playbook. You can find me at Roman Trebon on LinkedIn. You can find Kevin at Kevin Metzger as well. And as always, thanks for listening. And
I'm playing.
With each episode, they share their views, strategies, and tactics that you can use. from challenges to triumphs, they cover it all, helping you navigate when you're in the wall. So tune in now and join the quest. Kevin and Roman, put you to the test, empowering your journey in customer success. With insights and wisdom, you'll be the best. How do you navigate when you hit a wall? So tune in now and join the quest.